the best way to come to a deeper trust in the Lord is through relationship. The more you fail, the more you're going to trust. But that's not to say you need to fail just for failure's sake. But like you said, you can't steer a parked car. So when God asks you to do something, when God says to do something, just step out and do it. Do it the best of your ability. Trust that He has given you the task to do. He's already laid out the path in front of you.
Yeah.
And then if you fail, then so be it. Maybe it was your fault, maybe it wasn't. But the truth is, you can learn from that failure. First thing you learned was trust.
Yep.
So, but we won't learn how to trust God if all we do is sit in the pew and analyze everything. We'll develop paralysis by analysis, and we don't get anywhere doing that. Matter of fact, you can't create disciples that way. You can't create believers that way. You can't do anything that way.
I ended up, when I was going to school, and this is over 10 years ago, numbers probably changed. I bet you're not that different, though. The average entrepreneur, because I was taking business classes, your average entrepreneur doesn't succeed till about his fourth business.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, we
That,
teach people not to fail, be afraid to fail. God forbid you have a business go bad and people find out about it, and then you're just the talk of the town. And God forbid you had any earlier businesses fall and or fail, and you become prominent in a community or even nationwide. They're going to always point, he's not that great of a businessman. His first business failed. His second business failed. And you're just like, yeah, but the one they're doing now ain't.
mm-hmm.
So they were able to fail and learn lessons. And we should be willing to do the same thing and realize that as long as we don't quit, it's not really failure, it's a lesson. And
Yeah.
we need to learn the art of understanding what those boundaries are, but seeing how close we can get to draw near to the Lord, because I saw that the Lord wanted them to hear him for themselves. And I go back to a coworker that told us, and this girl was teaching Sunday school. Y'all know so much, and I'm just afraid to learn that much because I'm afraid God would hold me responsible for what I learned. Appreciate the honesty. You're still responsible for it either
Yeah.
way. You might
He's
as
already
well learn
doing
it.
it. Yeah, he's already holding you responsible.
So there's this idea though that, oh no, you hear from the Lord for us. This is too scary. But here's the cop out in that. And I want, as we close out here, I just want to point this out so that we don't develop this attitude. And here it is. Here's why it is so important. And it's going to be uncomfortable when I tell you this. The reason it is so important to get in the word for yourself is this. If you're hearing from the Lord for yourself, if you're getting in the word for yourself, and you have a mess up, who's to blame? It's you. It's me.
Yeah. Own it.
If the preacher is out there and you mess up, now you can point at the preacher and say it was their fault.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's still your fault. Take this to the bank. C-Dub's own 80-20 rule, because they got this thing called the Pareto principle, 80-20. 80% of your productivity as a company is going to be, your top 20% are going to produce 80% of the results. In the environment we worked in, I still work in, 20% of the people of the population caused 80% of the problems. It's true. Whatever your woes and sorrows are and your hardships, keep in mind this attitude. 80% of that's my fault. I
Right.
contributed to it to some degree. I might not have desired it, but I allowed it to happen, and you get what you tolerate. Or I might have sowed the seeds to this way, way back. So what do I have to do to counterbalance this, to dilute the effect of the poison, so to speak? What do I do? Now, that being said, still be appreciative of God's grace, understand his part, and also understand that sometimes people can just be mean. Sometimes they can be predatory. Sometimes they can be working out their own mess and try to have it go on to you. That happens, but still, the majority of the time, 80%, I would say, when I look back at my life, I contributed to that.
It's probably one of the things I love the most about the military is that, you know,
Ah,
success is always the goal. Don't get me wrong, but you don't never quit.
mm-mm.
Never quit. You can fail the mission, but don't quit. Don't quit.
Yep.
Um, that's one of the big things in the military. Is one thing we learned is just don't ever quit. You might die en route, but you don't quit. I love the movie Uncommon Valor, one of those '80s Vietnam movies with Gene Hackman and Patrick Swayze when he was just a young man. There's a scene in there where Patrick Swayze is training with these Vietnam veterans. Randall Tex Cobb is one of the crazy characters in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically having a contest of it's a team building contest of chopping logs is what it is, and it's Randall Tex Cobb and Patrick Swayze going at it stroke for stroke on this log. Well, uh, Randall Tex Cobb cuts his log down first, and then once Patrick Swayze's carry sees that, Randall Tex Cobb's done, well then he drops his axe because it's over. Randall Tex Cobb goes over to Patrick Swayze's log and finishes cutting it down for him. He tells him, said, "You don't ever quit, boy, not when it's for real." And that's one of the things that has stuck
Mm.
in me for a long time. You don't ever quit, not when it's for real. Um, I remembered that quote on long ass road marches in the middle of the night with feet hurting and shoulders hurting. Don't quit. You can take your last step, and they can put you on the truck, but they're going to have to carry you to the truck. You don't quit. I see the same thing here in the scriptures. You don't quit,
Yep.
not when it's for real, because that's all God's asking of you is just to keep doing what you're supposed to be doing and don't quit.